Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Morning Brew. I am not filming this in the morning, I'm filming this in the very late afternoon, but you guys didn't need to know that, actually. Nor would you guys have known that if I didn't just tell you. But that is not that beside the point. Welcome to another episode of the Morning Brew. Okay, cool. Intro over. Yeah. Today's episode is a start of a very fun mini series that we are going to be doing on the Morning Brew here. We are going to be going over all of the sleeved commander decks that I have sleeved and everything. And for those of you who don't play Magic with me, I tend to have about 8 or 9 sleeved commander decks ready to go at any given point. Number one, I do have a little bit of a problem. I am addicted to cardboard crack. I probably need to bleep that out for YouTube, but that's fine. But anyway, today we're going over a deck that is very near and dear to my heart. Today we will be going over Miss Tippy Tappy herself, Emmara, Soul of the Accord. Now, as you guys watch the episode, you guys will get a feel for how I'm going to be laying out this episode, along with all of the other sleeved commander decks that I have built, as well as whenever I invite one of my friends or playgroup members onto the show. This is the format that we're going to be doing. The show originally was supposed to be just me coming on here and deck building with you guys, and I feel like eventually we're gonna get back on track of that, but for now, I just really want to gush about the commander decks that I currently have sleeved and everything. So without further ado, let us talk about Emmara. And Emmara is a very, very special card to me, but before anything, let's at least... Oh my god, that was about to fall, and that was gonna be very, very tragic. Oh, before we get into it, I guess, always with me, I do have a cup of joe that I will be sipping on throughout the episode. I have not drinking any coffee yet today, which is very upsetting to me, I guess, because I love drinking coffee. But anyway, we have my cup of joe here with us today, and we have my handy dandy notebook, as well as a little cheat sheet that I will be going over with you guys concerning the deck. So, without further ado, let us read Emmara, Soul of the Accord. Emmara, Soul of the Accord is a 2/2 legendary creature, elf cleric. Elf will come back here in a moment. For 1 green and 1 white, so for only 2 mana, you get a 2/2, so a bear for layman's terms. Whenever Emmara, Soul of the Accord becomes tapped, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So I'm sure you guys can already see where we're going with this and everything. Emmara just loves to be tapped, and by tapping I mean you flip them to horizontally, whether that be through attacking or other means, as we will be going over. But before we go into the deck and everything, so why is this deck so important to me? Why is this card so important to me? I want to go over the stories that the stories and memories that I have either made as a player along my Magic journey, or anyone else's stories and memories that they have made along their own Magic journey. The reason why I built her is because back when I played Standard, which is back in high school, me and my friends went to the Guilds of Ravnica, which is the set that she is a part of. We went to the pre-release, and we didn't really end up staying long. I think all of us played, 2 or maybe even 3 rounds, so like not that much time, like a couple hours at best. In the Guild of Ravnica pre-release, you got to choose which guild you were a part of. And at the time, I didn't really... Not that I didn't know all of the color pairings, but I was going off of what I had seen in previews and spoilers and everything, and I thought that the Boros color pairing was like by far the best, at least for a pre-release and like sealed kind of event. So I chose Boros, but in the pre-release I ended up pulling this Emmara Soul of the Accord that is also on screen right now, and I pulled it inside of the pre-release pack. It had the September 29th and the 30th, 2018 symbol in the bottom right-hand corner of the art, and immediately I was like, whoa, like this is super cool. And even though during the pre-release I only made a Boros deck, as I was trying to go as thematic as possible with everything, and even though I think I went 0-2 in the pre-release, if not 1-1, so not the best in terms of pre-releases, but definitely not the worst I've done in a pre-release, and that is a story for a whole different day. But immediately when I pulled her from that pre-release pack, I felt a connection to her. So after the pre-release, all of my friends, we decided to build decks using the cards that we had gotten from the pre-release, and I stuck with the Boros color pairing and everything. And let's just say that Boros deck was not good at all. It was just... It wasn't good. It was doing the Boros thing, which is just straight up just like trying to attack every single turn. But I had too many high mana cost creatures, which is definitely a thought that new Magic players, at least to me, like when I was playing, new Magic players don't really tend to understand mana curve and everything. And mana curve is simply just like, you want every turn you're hypothetically playing one land. So turn 1, if you have a turn 1 play, it has to be a 1 mana spell. Turn 2, 2 mana. Turn 3, 3 mana. So on and so forth. And with that being said, most of my creatures in that Boros deck ended up being like 3 or 4 mana cost or greater. So I wasn't really doing anything turns 1 through 3 almost, and those are the times when Boros should have been attacking. And it's simply just because of the fact that I did not have the forethought to put in a lot of low-cost creatures and everything. So, after I just kept losing over and over again with that deck, another one of my friends, Ryan, shout out to Ryan, and also Ewan, shout out to Ryan and Ewan. I hope you guys are doing amazing. I haven't really kept in touch with you guys, and I feel really bad because you guys are awesome freaking people, and I hope you guys are living amazing lives and are just having an amazing time in your life, whatever you guys are doing. But because of those two guys, they helped me squander a few cards of the ones that I had pulled from, and we made a Selesnya deck, and Emmara was the headliner of that deck. And the whole deck was basically just like aggro Selesnya, so it was just all about making tokens and then attacking. And then, because of playing Standard so much with my friends, I had 4 copies of Emmara in that deck, just because I loved her so much. I mean, the artwork is incredible, and she is just this regal looking elf, and I don't know why I really fell in love with them so much, but I think it came back to that moment that I had with her after pulling her from that pre-release pack and just having that little year and date at the bottom right hand corner of the art. And that kind of just made it made my whole night in the pre-release, and it just made my nights whenever I played her against my friends and everything. And the deck did fairly well against all of my friends, and it's mostly because of the fact that there were multiple heads working on one deck, so it was kind of 3 times the brain power. So that's kind of why I have such an attachment to this creature, and that's kind of why eventually I did make this commander deck. I have 3 separate copies of this card. I have 3 copies of the regular artwork, as you guys are seeing on screen right now. I have 1 copy of the pre-release artwork that I've already previously shown, but I have 1 copy of a special full art foil version of Emmara, and this card is the real reason why I made this commander deck. It's because of the fact that when I saw that card for the first time, I felt almost inclined to build her because of the fact that I made an entire standard deck with her headlining it and being the main strategy in there, along with some other creatures, obviously, like the Tristani that was in that set was really good and just helped me out a whole lot. But I feel like this version of the card was the reason why I built it, and unfortunately, there is another version of Emmara, and I do not own that version. So eventually, at some point, I would love to go to a local game store, and if I can't find it at a local game store, then I'll just buy it online. But I really want to support a local business, and I want to get that card in a local business, just like how I got all of these versions of Emmara from my local card shops in Westerville, Ohio. So for those who haven't played with me before, I like to keep all of my commander decks that I intend to stay sleeved. I try to make them as thematic as possible. So, and how I help in doing that is by loading them up with a deck box that is thematic, and also sleeves that are thematic. So for Emmara, we have this very nice, lime green Ultra Pro deck box. Shout out to Ultra Pro. They make some of my favorite deck boxes, and they're for only like $5 or $6. You're getting something that will protect your cards for almost a lifetime, basically. I wouldn't suggest throwing it like outside your bedroom window onto the street, but your cards will probably survive, but the deck box will definitely be bent in some way, shape, or form. But I'm not gonna test that theory. You guys can test that for yourself. And then when it comes to these sleeves, I have this like badass warrior queen sitting on like a throne of like a golden dragon. Future Casey put a photo of it on screen right now, but like this, it's just cool. It's just a really cool sleeve, and like Emmara is just a badass woman elf, and I really wanted to showcase that this is a badass woman commander deck and everything. So with that all being said, let's hop into the deck, if you would. So with that out of the way, and why I decided to build the deck, what is the playing style of the deck? Now, as previously read before, I think it's pretty obvious as to what the game plan really is of the deck, and that is to tap Emmara, make guys, make more guys, and amass a gigantic army of guys. Now, guys is a term created by my newest roommate, Matt, which you guys will be seeing on the show. I've mentioned him before in a previous video, and I'm sure he'll be in more videos to come. But every time he makes tokens, he doesn't call them tokens, he just calls them guys. So that is kind of a new term that I have put into my magic index and everything. When you make Emmara, there are multiple ways to build her. I think a fun way of building her would be to going into vehicles, or even now, saddled creatures. Because when you saddle up a creature, you have to tap that creature, I'm pretty sure. And just like with vehicles, whenever you activate whenever a vehicle becomes a creature, you need to tap another creature with power equal to the vehicle's like cost, basically. Not the cost of the card, but whatever it is, the crew cost. So if you have a crew cost of 2, you can just tap Emmara and then make a guy, and then boom, now you have another creature to attack with that turn. So that is a way you can totally go in with this, and I tried to go not full vehicle tribal or anything, but I tried to incorporate a few vehicles into my game plan, and I just found that I would much rather have token creators in the deck, more token creators, rather than one token creator that I could only use about once per turn, and if I have multiple vehicles out, I can relatively only use Emmara once. Obviously, there are untapping cards, but there's only so many cards that I can really put into the deck. So, with that really being said, vehicles was not the way that the deck has turned into now. It was a version of the deck, but by no means what it has become now. Strategy number 1 is tapping Emmara. Now, how exactly do we tap Emmara? Well, there's a lot of different ways you can end up tapping her, and one strategy is convoking. Convoking is a mechanic where, as I'll read just now, your creatures can help cast this spell. Each creature you may tap while casting this spell pays for 1 colorless mana or 1 mana of that creature's color, which is so good. So basically, whenever you do a convoke spell, you can, if you have a lot of tokens out or a lot of creatures out, and if you don't want to spend mana because you want to spend that mana on other things, you can have your convoke spells be basically free, if not free. So I have 4 instances of convoke, and those instances are Nissa's Expedition. Now, as I've already read convoke, we're not going to be going over it again. Nissa's Expedition states, search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It costs 5 mana, but like 5 mana could easily be reduced down to 4, 3, 2, or even 1 mana, or even 0 if I have 5 or more creatures. Super good card, great ramp card. Next, we have March of the Multitudes, which is X, a green, a white, and another white with convoke, and then I create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink, which is basically, this is just big Emmara, basically, which is a very cool card. Next, we have a green mana staple in Court of Calling. X of any color, triple green, search your library for, and has convoke, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So this is just a great tutor for, honestly, any token deck or any deck that has a ton of different creatures in it. And then the final instance of convoke is Hour of Reckoning. 4 of any color, 3 white mana, destroy all non-token creatures, which is like kind of what the deck wants. If Emmara ends up dying, she's only 2 mana. So hypothetically, if I'm casting that, I might have already cast her once before, so then she'll be 6 mana, but like in a green and white deck, 6 mana for a commander for the 3rd instance you've cast it is not that much at all. So what are some other instances that we can use to tap Emmara? Well, we have some equipments, and we have 1 aura that we are running in the deck. First of all, we have Paradise Mantle. Paradise Mantle is one of my favorite cards in this deck. Not only the artwork, because the artwork is a very, dare I say, sexy elf creature. Warrior elf creature, of just like in this sick little cape, which I can only assume is the mantle. But Paradise Mantle is a 0 cost artifact equipment with equipped creature has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and equip of 1. So hypothetically, you can play this at any time in the game. I wouldn't suggest playing it turn 1, because then before you even have Emmara out, it is priority number 1 at the table. Next, we have a card that is really powerful, and is a lot more power, and was expensive by the time that when I bought this card. I don't know how much it's going for now, but we have Thornbite Staff. 2 mana of any color, tribal artifact, shaman equipment. Equipped creature has pay 2 mana, tap it. This creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, untap this creature. Whenever a shaman creature comes into play, you may attach Thornbite Staff to it. So, Emmara is by no means a shaman. However, this is a really good card to get rid of tokens. Now, obviously, you have to keep paying mana in order to do so, but the fact that she untaps is really good. And also, just for a reminder, I guess, every time we're tapping Emmara, we are making a 1/1 creature with lifelink, and lifelink is a super great keyword ability for those who did not know that. And lifelink basically just means whatever the power is of that creature, if they touch another creature or if they make contact with another player, you will gain that much life equal to their power, regardless if that creature lives or dies in combat. And then finally, we have Presence of Gond. 3 mana, 2 of any color, a green for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Tap this creature, create a 1/1 elf warrior creature token. So just by enchanting Emmara with this, you are making 2 tokens on every activation, which is really, really, really good. Another way that we can use Emmara to tap her is using tap and untapped creature cards, and we have 4 instances of that. So if you don't know what I mean, I'm just going to read one of these, and I think you'll come to understand why they are in the deck. So first we have Springleaf Drum. Springleaf Drum is 1 mana of any color for an artifact. You can tap Springleaf Drum, and then tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So we have 4 instances of stuff like this. We have Sentinel. I can't. It's not Sentinel. Is it Sentinel? It's not like a Sentinel, you know, like a knight, like a Sentinel, you know? I think it's something else, but Sentinel Stalwart. For 1 green mana, you're getting a 1/1 elf druid soldier. Tap this guy, tap an untapped artifact or creature you control, add 1 mana of any color. So basically just another Springleaf Drum. You can also tap artifacts with that, which is pretty cool. Then we have Selesnya Evangel, a green and a white for a 1/2 elf. Tap 1 and then tap Selesnya Evangel. Tap an untapped creature you control. Create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token. So again, just helps out with the strategy. You're making 2 guys because you tap Emmara and you're tapping her, so it just helps out. And then finally, we have Holdout Settlement, which is a land, which it could tap for a colorless mana, or if you tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So the fact that this is a land really, really helps out our strategy here, because lands are a lot harder to blow up than all of the cards I've previously mentioned, you know? Like, you could have a creature that says tap an untapped creature, or you can have an artifact, but let's be real, there's a lot more destroy those target spells than destroy target lands, and honestly, like, you could have a card in a commander deck that says destroy target land or destroy target non-basic land, and that's totally fine, but a mass land destruction thing is just not cool, and it's just not fun. We have 3 more cards to go over in this kind of, like, untappy, tappy kind of section, and then we'll be moving on to the next strategy. So we have Wirewood Lodge, which is another land. You can tap it for a colorless, or you can pay a green and tap it, untap target elf. And guess what Emmara happens to be? Yes, sir. She happens to be an elf. So that's really the whole reason why it's in here. I have a couple other elves in here, but, like, that's really the main reason it's in here. The fact that I can just untap Emmara again and use her ability once more is just super good, and it comes in a lot. It comes in more handy than you would think. It comes not in every Commander game I've played, but in a lot of Commander games I've played. Next, we have Seedborn Muse, which is a card that I'm sure many of you know. 3 mana of any color, a green and a green. You get a 2/4 spirit. Untap all permanents you control during each player's untap step. So basically, hypothetically, if you have, like, any of the other cards previously mentioned, you can just activate Emmara at least 1 time on everyone else's turn if you have more untapped target creature things. And then finally, we have a card that I didn't really know for a very long time, and that card is Stony Brook Schoolmaster. For 2 of any color and a white, you get a 1/2 Merfolk Wizard, which sounds a little weird for this deck, but give me a moment. Whenever Stony Brook Schoolmaster becomes tapped, you may create a 1/1 blue Merfolk Wizard creature token. So It's basically Emmara, not as good because it's a 1/2 instead of a 2/2, and it costs 3 mana instead of 2 mana. However, you're doing the exact same thing. You are making a creature token, and granted, those creature tokens do not have lifelink. Magic players are ever wondering about power creep. This is a perfect example. If you put these two cards next to each other and put the years below them, you can easily see how magic cards become more powerful over time and everything. Alright, the next instance we have for the strategy is making guys, and we have 16 instances of token creators in here. First off, we have Rampaging Baloth, which is by no means a card that anyone should not be familiar with, at least if you're a Magic player. 4 of any color, 2 green, you get a 6/6 beast with trample. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token, which is just like a no-brainer. It's a bunch of big tokens, and that's kind of what you want. Next, we have Azuri's Predation, which has gotten me out of a couple binds whenever playing this deck. So 5 of any color, this is basically a pseudo board wipe. It's not like a full board wipe, but it's a pseudo one. 5 of any color and 3 green for a sorcery. For each creature your opponents control, put a 4/4 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. Each of those beasts fights a different one of those creatures. So if any of your opponent's creatures have toughness 4 or less, they will be dying from this card. And then you're stuck with a lot, and I mean a lot of other beasts. Even, like, it's gotten me out of a lot of binds, and I think that card has won me a game or two for sure. Next, we have Eska's Chariot, which is a card that is very dope and used to be so very, very expensive. It is a 4/4 vehicle. I believe this is the only vehicle I have left in this deck. But it is a 4/4 vehicle, 3 of any color, and a green. And whenever Eska's Chariot enters the battlefield, you create 2 2/2 green cat creature tokens. Whenever Eska's Chariot attacks, create a token that's a copy of a target token you control. So basically just double a token. You just create another copy of another token. So hypothetically, if you had Rampaging Baloth, you already had a beast out, you can just make another 4/4 beast, and its crew cost is 4. It's a little bit of a hefty crew cost, but if you have either multiple creatures or if you have just like one big creature, you can easily get away with doing that almost every turn. Plus, a 4/4 is a pretty good body as well, so it's a good blocker. Next, we have Feldegar Retreat, which is an enchantment, 3 of any color and a white, with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1, create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, which will be the one you probably choose the most in this deck. Or you have put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until the end of your turn, or until end of turn. Sorry, this could activate on other people's turns as well. So again, just a super good card. Like, if you want to make all your tokens a little bit bigger, if you want to turn those 1/1 lifelinkers into 2/2 lifelinkers, there you go. Or if you just want to make a bunch of kitties, there you go. Speaking of kitties, though, we have White Sun Zenith. X, 3 white for an instant. Create X 2/2 white cat creature tokens. Shuffle White Sun Zenith into its owner's library, which is so cool. So it doesn't even go into your graveyard, and there are a couple instances of graveyard recursion in this deck. But the fact that we have this, though, is so dope. Like, we can do this multiple times throughout a game and benefit from it. Even if we only do it 2 times in the first time, but if we do it like 5 times the next, that's at least 7 cats we've created from that. Next, we have another land. We have Castle Ardenvale. Castle Ardenvale enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a plains, which in a Selesnya deck is almost bound to happen. And then has tap for a white, 2 of any color, and then 2 white to tap this. You create a 1/1 white human creature token. Pretty cool. Next, we have Impervious Perfect, 2 of any color and a green, for another sexy elf. You get a 2/2 elf warrior. Other elves you control get a +1/+1, which is very nice. So Emmara is now a 3/3, pretty cool. And then you can pay a green and then tap Impervious Perfect. Create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. More elves. Next, we have an old school guy who used to be very expensive and used to be very good and has kind of dwindled in years as power creep has just been a big thing. But we have Reese the Redeemed. Either a white or green hybrid, so it could either be green or white, depending. You get a 1/1 elf warrior, 2 of any color, and a hybrid white or green. Tap him, put a 1/1 green and white elf warrior creature token into play. Pretty cool. Or you can pay 4 of any color and then a white and green hybrid. For each creature token you control, put a token into play that's a copy of that creature. So we're just doubling our tokens, which is so cool. So not only does he create them, but he doubles them. Next, we have God Eternal Oketra. For a 3/6 zombie god for 3 of any color, a white and a right, with double strike. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. And as you guys have seen, there are already a lot of creatures in this deck, and we're just going to keep them coming. Whenever she dies, however, or is put into exile from the battlefield, very nice, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top, which is extremely helpful just to keep recasting it. Next, we have Elder Gargaroth. For 3 of any color and 2 green, you get a beast 6/6, vigilance, reach, trample. Whenever he attacks or blocks, really cool that he also blocks, choose one. You can either create a 3/3 green beast creature token, gain 3 life, or draw a card. All of those instances are great. Obviously, I think for this deck, you're going to be wanting to be creating the 3/3s the most, then you're going to be wanting to draw cards, and then you're going to want to gain the life. I think that's the order I would go in, but I am by no means you. If you see life as more important than drawing cards, that is your prerogative. Definitely not mine. Next, we have Call of the Coppercoats. Jesus Christ. For 2 of any color and a white, you get an instant with Strive, and Strive reads, this spell costs 1 generic mana and a white more to cast for each target beyond the first. So, choose any number of target opponents, which is why you would spend the extra mana. So if you want to only do this once, you're just going to pay 3 mana, but if you want to do 2 targets, then you pay 5. And then if you want to do all 3 of your opponents, which would hypothetically, you're playing a 4-person total game of Magic, counting you, you would pay 7 mana for it, which is a pretty good thing. Choose any number of target opponents, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control. I like this card a lot because it's the fact that you get to choose how many tokens you really create. Like, if there is a person at the board who has like 0 creatures out, then just like don't choose them, you know? Like, it's very case by case. Next, we have Cemetery Protector. This is a card that I used in my last game when using Emmara, and she ended up doing quite a bit. So for 2 of any color, a white and a white, you get a 3/4 with Flash, which is very nice, that you can just cast this at any point in time. When she enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. Does not need to be yours. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell that shares a card type with the exiled card, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So that's pretty cool. So if you ever just like, honestly, it would probably be like, in this deck, you would choose either land or creature to go from. Next, we have Queen Alinal of Radok. I hope I read that correctly. For a green and double white, you get a star elf noble whenever her power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. Very nice. And if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 white soldier creature token are created instead. So for basically, if you have Emmara and if you tap her, oh, Queen Alinal's like, yo, girl, I love what you're doing, by the way. Hey, how about I help you out and create another token for you? Very nice. Next, we have Maja Bredegard? Sure. Maja Bredegard Protector. 2 of any color, a green, a white, and a white for a 2/3 human warrior. Other creatures you control get a +1/+1. So we've seen this before in the fact that this is like the second pumper that we have here, which just makes our guys a little bit bigger, which is very nice because they're all pretty small. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. Super, super dope. Next, we have a card that I really like, and it just hasn't... I don't think I'm going to take this card out just because I really like it, but I could definitely see a case where I do take it out. It is a 5/5 for 3 of any color, a white and a white, Defiler of Faith, Phyrexian human with Vigilance. As an additional cost to this white... As an additional cost... Oh my god. As an additional cost to cast white permanents, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 white mana less to cast if you paid life this way. So if you have for example, Maja is now 4 mana instead of 5, but you just pay 2 life, which is pretty good if you ask me, because I use my life as a resource all the time. Whenever you cast a white permanent spell, white permanent does not have to be a creature, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So super, super dope. And finally, we have, of these making guys, we have Oketra's Monument, legendary artifact. White creature spells you cast cost 1 generic mana less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with Vigilance. So... you're just getting another creature with a great keyword ability. Also, if Emmara dies, her commander tax is now reduced by 1, which I believe will add up over time. We do have another couple instances of creating more guys. We have a ability called Populate, and Populate is a very fun mechanic that I will read to you guys right now, using the example of growing ranks. 2 of any color, and a white or green hybrid, and another white or green hybrid, you get an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep, Populate. Now, what is Populate, you might be asking to yourself? Create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control. So it's basically it's basically Esca's Chariot, as we've read before, and this is great. So you're just making another copy of a token you control, and you're doing this on every upkeep, which is awesome. Then we have Tristani Selesnia's Voice, a green, a white, and a white for a 2/5 legendary creature Dryad. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, which in this deck, it's not going to be a lot of large instances, but a lot of small instances, which could add up over time. And then you can pay a 1, a green, and a white, and then tap her to populate. So you just create a token, and then you gain life from that token, which is awesome. And then finally, we have Sundering Growth, which is a hybrid white and green, and then hybrid white and green. And this is our first instance of interaction, I believe, aside from the board wipe earlier. But anyway, you get an instant with destroy target artifact or enchantment, then you populate. So you destroy something for 2 mana, and you create a token. That's what I like to call value. Alright, and then the final way of making guys, we have 3 instances of token doubling and replacing tokens. So, first off, we have Second Harvest. It's a 4 mana instant, 2 of any color, a green and green. For each token you control, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that permanent. So it's basically just populate, but populate everything, which is awesome. And then we have, by far, probably the most expensive card in this deck. We have Anointed Procession. 3 of any color and a white. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens you control, it creates twice of those many tokens instead. So this is Panharmonicon for tokens. If you make 1, now you're making 2. If you make 2, you're making 4. You know, just double the double. Alright. And then finally, we have Divine Visitation. This is the token replacer. For 3 of any color, a white and a white, you get an enchantment with, if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So, if you tap Emmara with this out, instead of making a 1/1 with lifelink, you're now making a 4/4 with flying and vigilance. So you're just getting a bunch of Sarah Angels. And Sarah Angels, for you who don't know, are just a classic Magic the Gathering card, and they're literally 5 mana, so they're 3 of any color, a white and a white, and you get a 4/4 white angel with flying and vigilance. Back in the day, or at least back in the day being when Magic first started, so even before I was born, it's just a ton of freaking value. For a lot of the people who play with me, you will all know that I love drawing cards. So, besides all of the few other instances of drawing cards that we've named, like Elder Gargaroth, we have 7 instances of drawing cards, and those ways are Huatli, Radiant Champion, who is a Planeswalker, 2 of any color, a green and a white for a Planeswalker, comes in at 3 loyalty. However, that's going to change very quickly. Her +1 is put a loyalty counter on Huatli for each creature token, for each creature you control. So you got a ton of tokens out, you can easily get her to, like, her max. Easily turn 1, excuse me. And if you're playing in a non-singleton format, you can easily have multiple of these in the deck and just run away with them very quickly. Her -1, which is really crazy to me, target creature gets a +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So one creature is just going to become gigantic. And her -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. And the fun thing about emblems is that you can stack them. There's no rule that says you only need 1 emblem. So if you can use her +1 1 or 2 times and get to like 16 plus, you can activate her -8 multiple times and just draw cards by activating Emmara, which is insane to me. Like, actually insane. I've drawn a ton of cards with her, and normally people kind of let her go under the radar when playing, which is weird to me, because, like, I mean, after this video comes out, I'm sure all my friends are going to be like, need to take care of that super quickly, which is completely fair. Next, we have Idol of Oblivion, 2 of any color for an artifact. Tap it, draw a card, activate only if you've created a token this turn, which is hypothetically going to be happening on every turn at some point in the game. And then has another ability, 8 mana, pay 8 mana, tap this card, sacrifice Idol of Oblivion, create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token, which is like, I don't think I've ever activated this. I don't see myself activating this because, you know, I love drawing cards. But I could see myself using this eventually if I have enough mana and everything. Next, we have Rumor Gatherer, 2/1 for one of any color, a green, or I'm sorry, not a green, a white and a white. You get an elf wizard, hey, another elf. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1, which is a great use of card selection. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead, which hypothetically at some point in the game, if Emmara sticks around or if this card sticks around, let alone both towards the end of the game, I'm gonna be drawing a lot of cards and scrying so many cards. So great. Next, we have probably the best example in card draw, which is Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp is one of the best artifacts equipment you could have, like, in almost any deck. Definitely for a token deck for sure. I don't think this card belongs in every single deck, but a lot, to be fair. Skull Clamp, 1 of any color for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets a +1, a -1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards, and it has equip cost of 1. So by paying 1 mana and equipping it onto a creature that Emmara has created, you're drawing 2 cards, because it's gonna die. Because they get a +1, -1. If you equip this onto a 1/1, boom, there you go. Next, we have Camaraderie. I almost read that as Camel Ride, and that is not this card. 4 of any color for a green and a white, you get a sorcery. You gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures you control. Creatures you control get a +1/+1 until end of turn. Awesome, awesome card. Gain some life, draw some cards, pump your guys, all for 6 mana. In a Selesnya deck, what could be better? Next, we have Welcoming Vampire, 2 of any color and a white for a 2/3 flying vampire with a very, very nice artwork, if I do say so myself. You get a 2/3 flyer whenever 1 or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control. Draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. So the fact that it only triggers once each turn kind of sucks, but also, like, I can't really ask for much, because if this was just all the time, this would be banned almost instantly, or this would be way too much mana for it to be worth it. So I'm fine with it happening once each turn. And then finally, we have Shamanic? It's like a shaman. I think it's shamanic. Shamanic Revelation, 3 of any color. For double green, you get a sorcery. Draw a card for each creature you control. Now, it has a second ability, but in this deck, it's not really going to be activated a whole lot. But if it's in a different token creator deck, or like a large token creator deck, or even just a large creature deck, I can definitely see this second ability coming into play a lot more often. You gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. There are a couple of them in here, as we've already seen, but like not enough for that to really matter. And the fact that they would have to be out in the battlefield at the same time, it's very time constrictive, but also like it's a really good card. So I put it in here for the card draw, but I'm sure a lot of people have used that for the life gain and everything. And those are all of the renditions of card draw we have. Orin Frostfang, 3 of any color, double green for a 2/6 snake. Attacking creatures you control have Death Touch, which, if a lot of you guys don't know and will come to learn, Death Touch is probably by far my favorite keyword ability, and Death Touch just means whenever this creature touches another creature, that creature dies, regardless if my creature lives in combat or not. The other creature that touches it will die, so more often than not, people will not block your Death Toucher, which just means free damage. The downside is that it doesn't say it's only attacking creatures, so I like this card a lot because it almost forces you to attack, which in my play group here in Pittsburgh is something I wish everyone would come to learn. Now, granted, we are put into a lot of situations where somebody is so far ahead that it's almost not even worth attacking, because then we're just left open by the other players. But also, like, when the arch enemy is there, in my mind, everybody at the table should do as much as they can to get that arch enemy down a peg, and as many pegs as possible. I'm not gonna laugh. I'm so stupid that I thought that was funny. And then Orin Frostfang also reads, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, which is just like, come on guys, like this. I love this card. This card is awesome. Sick art, by the way. Also used to be super expensive. I don't know if it is still super expensive or if it's gone down. It might have gotten a reprint in some commander deck. I have no idea. Next, we have Eldrazi Monument, which shout out to Nick, by the way. My homie Nick introduced me to this card because of his token deck that he has. And this card is as followed. 5 of any color artifact. Creatures you control get a +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. So fuck all your board wipes, bro. I'm living. My dudes are fucking living, bro. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature if you can't sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. So there is the smallest downside ever. But in a token deck, this is nothing. This is absolutely nothing. The next instance of possible... How dare you, Matt? Anyway, I always forget to turn off my computer's volume when recording these, specifically Morning Brew, because I have my text note. You know what? You guys don't care about that. I'm funny. I swear I'm funny sometimes. But anyway, Achroma's Will. 3 of any color and a white for an instant. Choose one. If you control your commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both of these, which in this instance and many other instances of these kind of cards, I don't know why you wouldn't choose both. The first option is creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn. The next option is creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. So, yeah. So if you have Emmara out, whenever I have Emmara out and casting this, it's like, it might not be game over, but like, I'm at least killing somebody with this. And it's just a really good card overall. The next one is very nice, however, in certain instances, this might not be the best. So, we have Harmonious Archon. 4 of any color, double white for a 4/5 Archon creature with flying. Non-Archon creatures have base power and toughness 3/3. Whenever Harmonious Archon enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. So this card, for very new Magic players, might be a little confused or whatever. But anyway, basically, all of the soldiers that Emmara has created, all of the cats I've created, all of the little tiny tokens, and for example, all of the big tokens I've created are now 3/3. But that not only goes for me, that goes for everybody. So everybody has 3/3 creatures, including the 2 tokens that I have created by casting, or whenever Archon enters the battlefield. So this is kind of a double-edged sword in the fact that all of my power 4 or greater tokens are now 3/3s, which does kind of suck. But that also means that all of my opponent's creatures are now 3/3s, which could be a double-edged sword. It's never come up in the fact that I'm helping my opponents. More often than not, I'm hurting them because of that. But just something to keep in mind if you are ever using Harmonious Archon. I think it's great for a token deck. You just have to keep in mind when you cast it, because it might be a not so good idea. Next, we have one of my favorite cards of all time, and a card that many people dread, which actually works very well with Harmonious Archon, and that is the Queen of the Praetors herself, Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite. For 5 of any color, a white and a white, you get a 4/7 legendary Praetor with Vigilance. Other creatures you control get a +2/+2. Creatures your opponents control get a -2/-2. So the last time, not the most recent time I've played Emmara, but the time before I played Emmara, I believe I had Harmonious Archon and Elesh Norn out. So all of my opponent's Archons were now 1/1s, because they were 3/3s, but Elesh Norn gets a -2/-2 to all of my opponent's creatures. So all of their 3/3s are now 1/1s, and all of my 3/3s are now 5/5s, which is very, very crazy to really think about. And that Elesh Norn is just an awesome card. Again, when I put her into the deck, she was very expensive. She might be less so expensive. I think when I originally put her in here, she was around like $16 to $20. She's probably less so now, but just something to keep in mind. Now, if that wasn't crazy, if those last 2 cards weren't crazy enough, this card really goes well with both of them. I'm, of course, talking about Kamahl, Heart of Krosa. For 6 of any color, you get a green, you get a 5/5 human druid at the beginning of combat on your turn. Creatures you control get a +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. His other ability is 1 of any color and a green. Until end of turn, target land you control becomes a 1/1 elemental creature token with vigilance and indestructible, and it has haste. It's still a land. So, but it has indestructible, so it's probably not going to die that turn. And it's only 2 mana to activate that. So for 2 mana, if just Kamahl is on the battlefield, you get a 1/1, but on combat, that dude is now a 4/4 with trample, vigilance, and indestructible. And haste. No, I'm sorry, not trample, sorry. Oh, well, no, he does. Okay. Reading the card explains the card, and I just did that. So, we're all caught up now. So, if you have the Archon out, all of your creatures are 3/3s. And then if you have Elesh Norn out, they're all 5/5s. But on combat, they are now 8/8s. With trample. That's a game ender right there. So all 3 of those, so like all of those cards just together, just make your army almost unstoppable. Like, every single one of these 6 possible game enders by themselves could win you the game, but if somehow you can combine a couple of them together into one unstoppable force, it comes what I just said, an unstoppable force. The final piece of this puzzle of game enders is a combo. Now, combos are more likely than... Now, when it comes to beating someone in Magic, the most traditional way of beating them is to get your opponent's life total down to 0. In Commander, your starting life total is 40, so that could be pretty hard if you're not a super aggressive deck. Emmara can definitely do that. Emmara is somewhat aggressive. But if you're looking to end the game very early, I would suggest putting in a combo, and I will have a link down below to the combo creator of choice. Basically, you just input a card you really like, or if you input a color you desire, or you input the type of win you want to go for, whether that be infinite damage, infinite turns, infinite life. Not that infinite turns or infinite life are like game enders or like win you the game by any means, but they will make it extremely hard for your opponents to win the game. More often than not, you're gonna choose like win on the spot or even infinite damage, you know, kind of thing. But anyway, my combo is not a combo that will immediately end the game right there and then, but will take 2 turns to do. So, we have Ivy Lane Denizen, 3 of any color and a green, for a 2/3 elf warrior. Hey, another elf. Whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. I'm sure some of you can already see where this is going, but yeah. Next, the other piece of this 2-piece combo is Herd Baloth. 3 of any color, a green and a green, you get a 4/4 beast. Wow, we got a lot of beasts in here, actually. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto Herd Baloth, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. So, the combo goes like this. You play Ivy Denizen, cool. Then you pay 5 mana, cast Herd Baloth. Herd Baloth comes in. Herd Baloth is a green creature. Ivy Lane Denizen says, yo, green creature, I see you. I'm gonna put a 1/1 counter on target creature. I'm going to target Herd Baloth. Herd Baloth's like, yo, Ivy Lane Denizen, I love that. Thank you so much, man. So now Herd Baloth is a 5/5. That's pretty cool. Because a 1/1 counter was put onto him, he creates a 4/4 green beast creature token. Another green creature has entered the battlefield. Ivy Lane Denizen sees that. Oh, dang, what's up, beast? How are you doing today? I'm just gonna put a 1/1 counter on something. Hey, Herd Baloth, looks like you need another 1/1 counter. Put a 1/1 counter on Herd Baloth. Make another 4/4 beast. I'm sure you guys can see what's happening here. Basically, I'm going to create infinite 4/4 green beast creature tokens. Now, when you do go infinite with something, especially when it comes to life, creatures, power, what have you, you can't say that I make infinite. You need to say a specific number, and when it comes with me, I make those numbers very large. I think last time I said I create 800,000 of them or something. So basically, all of them, I just have a shit ton of beasts, is what I'm trying to say. I have an enormous army that could easily defeat Mordor. Like, I can march down to fucking Mordor with all of my beasts, kick a bunch of orc ass, and just... Fuck it, I'm just gonna tell all of my Baloth, I'm just gonna tell all of my little beasts to go trample over fucking Sauron's fucking tower, bro. Fuck that shit. Nah, you're done. Game over, bro. I win. Fuck throwing the ring into the fucking volcano. I trampled that bitch. He's gone. He's done. So, basically, your opponents, now, after that combo happens, your opponents have a 1-turn clock, basically. If they can't find an answer, or wipe the board, or do something about it, they will lose. They're just going to take a shitload of damage, or you can win on the spot if you give all of your creatures haste. I have no way of giving them haste. I believe that we've stated in the deck, but that's how you win the game, guys. That is at least how I normally end the game with Emmara. For the longest time, this deck did not have a combo. It wasn't until Modern Horizons 2, I believe, when I created that combo, and as you guys can see, it's a very nice combo at that. Now, obviously, all of the cards that I've gone over now do not make up the 99 cards in the deck. But if you'd like to see the rest of the cards in the deck, hop open to the description down below and you can see the full deck list down there. It's only like, I don't know, like 12, 15, 17, 18. It's like 18 cards plus lands. I just wanted to take the time to cover all of the cards that really mattered in this deck, and this deck, along with a few others, there are a lot of cards that do matter. I'm not saying that other cards don't matter in other decks, but like this is the main strategy. And the main strategy, there's a lot of cards to kind of cover. So, with that all being said, we've come to the end of our journey here, guys, of this episode. So thank you all so much for watching another episode of the Morning Brew. Go drink some coffee, go play some Magic, go check out the deck list down below, and just overall have an amazing freaking day, and go play some Magic, guys. Have a fun time. So with that being said, I will be seeing you guys in another episode of the Morning Brew. Stay happy, stay healthy, have a good one, and I'll be seeing you guys later. Peace. Coffee!